National Signing Day is here, and it's time to introduce you to the 12 newest members of the Grizzly football program with head coach Bobby Hauck. And Coach, before we get into these guys individually, what were some of your main priorities when you started on the recruiting trail to try and build this vision for Grizzly football?
Well, in the normal year, you take some transfer guys that will fill specific needs and things you need immediate help on your roster. And then we want to be a high school recruiting outfit, so you recruit kids that project down the road to being on your roster and contributing. So anytime you see a freshman on this roster, we're not necessarily counting on him to lead the charge next year, but down the road we are.
I'm sure there's a lot of high schoolers around the state, maybe around the region, Coach, that would love to know the answer to this question, but what are some specifics that you're looking for when you're looking to recruit someone to the University of Montana? What are some characteristics?
Well, there are different things that we're looking for. We grade them in three facets. We grade them on their academic prowess and their ability to survive in whatever curriculum they're interested in at our school. Then we grade them on their film. It's all about the film. And then we talk to people and give them a character grade as well. So when they pass muster in those three areas, then they're a go, and then they've got to decide if this is the place for them.
How did the first year, Coach, of this early signing period maybe affect positively and negatively when you went out? I'm sure it's just a little different trying to get used to everything.
Well, the early signing day is something I was not a proponent of early on, and now I'm maybe the biggest fan of it on the planet. So I really liked the early signing day. I thought we did well in the early period, and in my mind, the intent of the rule was to clean up recruiting, make it smooth for both the athletes that are signing and for the coaching staffs that are out recruiting, take some of the negativity out of recruiting, and I think it did that. And so job well done in terms of this structure in my mind.
Take me inside the living room when you're in there with families and just trying to build your vision for Grizzly football. What are some main things, Coach, that you're talking about to get people excited? Well,
it's funny because everybody really focuses on the sales pitch in terms of recruiting, when maybe the most important part, in particular at a place like Montana, is the evaluation and the projection on these guys. We need to project what they're going to look like down the road. So the mental toughness, the effort level, the character level is really important. But as far as getting in the living room, we talk about what it's going to be like at our place. We feel like we have a great product to sell here in the state of Montana, Missoula, Montana, and then this great university. And that shows through, and we don't really put the full court press on anybody too much. We just kind of present our case and talk about this great place that we've got, and certainly as we begin to meet these lads that signed with us, you're going to see that the reception in those living rooms was pretty good.
This time around, you had proof that there was a champion center. We're in the building right
now.
Just
drawings.
It's just a little bit, right?
It was good.
How much do you feel that positively impacted the recruiting class?
Well, we talked about returning the program to dominance and talked about some of the things that have been accomplished in the past here. And then the facilities, whether it's this champion center or the stadium or our academic center, those are all big selling points on recruiting weekends. And this place is special and certainly helped us in recruiting.
Now we'll go with the players individually, one by one. We'll start with the 4 Montana kids that we will announce at least in today's class, and we'll start close to home, Missoula native and David Kopang.
Yeah, David's a good athlete. He's a multi-sport athlete, so developmentally in football, he's not anywhere near to what he potentially can do. I think that's a great example of, back to your former question, what we're looking for is we like multi-sport athletes because we don't think they've reached their full potential in football, and David's one of those guys.
We haven't had a player from Butte on the roster in quite some time. You immediately change that. You get a Butte tough kid in Nathaniel Ferguson.
Yeah, Ferguson's a guy that can do a lot of things. He's a good athlete. We're going to have him punt for us, and we like anytime we recruit a specialist going forward, for the most part, they're going to be guys that play other positions on the football field. They play other sports, and we think that he brings a lot of good attributes to our team, and certainly we always got to have a Butte guy on our team.
Have to now,
We
right?
have to.
You went to the capital city next, and you got the 4th set of brothers connected now on this roster in getting Trevor Wellnell, an offensive lineman from Helena.
Yeah, having the family ties on the team, which is, we can go back a few generations on that thing. but it was great to have him and his parents in here on the weekend, and certainly they liked what they saw. You really want to be a part of it, and we made a pretty good haul out of Helena this year, and we'll hopefully continue to do that.
What kind of dynamic does that bring to the roster, Coach? You have 4 different sets of brothers. Hopefully you don't have to get in between it and break
well, let's hope we do. Maybe that's kind of how it's going. You know, it's good with brothers. They grow up battling each other from an early age, and it's funny, of those sets of brothers, a lot of them will be matched up against each other in practice. So there will be some heated family squabbles on our practice field, I hope, and we'll certainly have some fun with that.
Kalispell Glacier has had quite the run in the last decade under former Grizzly great in Grady Bennett, and you secure the 4th member of this year's class from Kalispell Glacier in offensive lineman Cody Hartsock.
Yeah, Cody's a big old guy that, again, we're talking about some of these young guys are people that we think will develop in the program, come a long way from where they are in high school. Grady's done a magnificent job up there. I mean, we've got 4 guys in this class. We signed 3 of them in December, and you know, it's good to have that local flavor. Obviously, the Grizz are big up in the Flathead Valley, and those kids have a real affinity for this football program. Now
we'll get to the out-of-state recruits, and I mean that, you know, with quotes around it, out-of-state, because this next one, I'm sure, Coach, is very unique and very special for you.
Now I got it.
Now you know where I'm going with this one, but very unique and special for you being head coach of the Grizzly football program and getting to announce your son, Robbie, as a member of the squad.
Yeah, it's good to have Robbie here. Obviously, he grew up out there in that stadium, and you know, generations of the family being Montana Grizzlies. He's a 4th generation guy here, and you know, one of the keys in recruiting is to have a great relationship with the mother. And on most days of the week, I've got a pretty good relationship with, in most months of the year, with his mother. So we got him. He's enrolled in class, and you know, hopefully he'll be eligible to compete next fall. He may have to redshirt. We'll see how that goes.
I was going to say, tell us a little bit about the process from NAU. I'm sure there were some question marks with it, but obviously everybody wanted Robbie here.
Yeah, well, the best part about NAU is Jerome Sowers is such a solid guy, and we met with no resistance on that. He was, you know, he said we'd like to have him stay, but what's good for the family is good for the family, and so Jerome was great. NAU supported the transfer, which gives us a chance to appeal and maybe have him be eligible, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out.
Another Division I transfer that you have coming on board, someone joining you from San Diego State and getting a solid running back in Adam Eastwood.
Well, Adam Eastwood was a guy, he was in my recruiting area the last couple of years in San Diego at Cathedral High School. He played for Sean Doyle, who's a longtime coach down there, actually coached Justin Green in high school at the same school, by a different name, but the same school. And Adam is a big old running back. He's got great speed. He's tough. I think he fits into the line of the Lex Hillier, Justin Green guys that will be a real hammer in the backfield. And you know, he's a guy that I thought was really under-recruited a year ago. And when I took the job, he asked me if we had any interest in him. I said, as long as Coach Long will release you, then we certainly do. And again, it was really good of quality coach and Rocky Long to say, you know what, this is what the kid wants to really do. I'm going to let him do it. So that was good.
Keeping the California connection rolling a bit, you get a big defensive lineman in here in Alex Governor.
Yeah, Alex Govnor's a big guy. You know, I watched him on film and was really impressed with him. But when I went to see him, I kind of expected he'd be 5'11" or 6 foot even. When I watched the film, I said, there's got to be something about this cat that's a liability. And when I saw him, he was 6'3". He's really grown in the last year, so he didn't get a ton of recruiting attention. I mean, certainly there were enough scholarship offers that he was wanted by numerous people, but he's athletically, for a guy his size, he has the ability to be a special guy for us.
And now the 4th member of the group from the state of California. You continue to bolster up that offensive line for Coach Chad Germer and get Cole Saenz.
Well, Cole Saenz, he has a California address, but his dad and almost all of his extended family are from Darby. And he's got a lot of, I mean, he's got aunts, uncles, so on, cousins, so on and so forth that are season ticket holders here at Grizzly Stadium. So he's kind of a Montana guy. His dad played at MSU, and it was really interesting to say, "Now, are you interested in them?" He goes, "No, Coach, I'm a Montana Grizzly fan." I said, "Well, good. I'm glad we've got everybody straightened out down there in your house."
Have to get that squared away
exactly.
first off, right?
So that was good, and Cole's a good get for us.
Grizz Nation hasn't heard the words tight end for a couple of seasons now, and I know there's a lot of excitement around how you're going to incorporate the position with Coach Rosenbaugh, but let's talk about a guy you get from Vancouver, Washington here in tight end, Cole Grossman.
Yeah, Cole's, I don't know what Cole's going to play. I'll touch on the tight end thing. We're going to manufacture some tight ends out of our roster. They're going to come from other spots, and we'll have some tight ends next year. You have to put your best 11 on the field, so this is probably going to be an evolutionary type process. But when you look at this recruiting class, you're going to see some big bodies, some tall guys that can run that are potential tight ends. Cole Grossman is a terrific basketball player. He's 6'5". He's only about 190 or 95 pounds right now. I don't know what he's going to play. I would probably list him as an athlete before I would list him as a tight end, because he can play about 11, 12 spots on the roster.
Bolster the secondary a little bit further and go to the same high school as your quarterback, Gresh Jensen, here in Auburn Mountain View, and get a solid safety in Gavin Robertson.
Yeah, Gavin's a really good get for us. A lot of people wanted Gavin. The best thing about him is he's here, he's enrolled, he's in class. He's a great student, but he can help us right now. And we are short-handed in the secondary, and Gavin can come in here and compete right away. And I would anticipate that he's going to fight day one for a starting job.
The final commit of this year's class that we'll talk about today comes from 2,000 miles away. Most of the recruits, Montana, California, Washington. You go out to Pennsylvania and get a solid defensive end in Milton Mamula.
Yeah, Milt's a really good-looking kid. He's a big physical guy. He's a late bloomer. He's had some injuries, so he didn't have a bunch of film. But he's a guy that, you know, I'm a little bit surprised we've got him. You know, Philly is not necessarily a hotbed for Montana Grizzlies football recruiting, but his dad, Mike, played with my brother Tim at the Eagles, and they're good friends. And I was actually going to recruit this guy as best I could to San Diego State, and then when I took the job, we just kind of flipped. And I was really concerned that we would be able to hold on to Milt and to Cole Grossman, but both of them were approached by multiple schools, and they both held to their commitments. And you know, in this day and age in recruiting, a man of his word is sometimes hard to come by, and so I'm really enthused about how that's gone.
Well, congratulations first off, Coach, on your class in general. How pleased are you with the group that you have in general, and just trying to hit the ground running? I know you haven't hit the stop button at all since you got hired, but how do you feel now that it's all complete? Yeah,
coaches are always fired up on signing day one. We get to restart the year and all that, but if we're not fired up about these guys, we shouldn't have recruited them. So we're excited about these guys. I think the future's really bright as you look at this class in totality, both from the early signing to the late signing. There's a lot of size, a lot of front guys on both sides of the ball, tight ends, big athletes, and I think that's going to pay dividends for us for not just next year, but the next 5 years. And I'm as excited as I can be. I'm really excited to get out to spring ball and get on the field with our guys. We've got them working out. We're starting to push them, put them in some adverse situations, and it's going well.
I know the priority for you was to win the state of Montana. How do you feel that when you hit the ground running, how you did here within the state, getting players that define what Grizzly football is about?
I think it was good. I think the reception was outstanding, both here in Missoula and as we got out around the state. We were in a lot of homes and a lot of high schools, and people were pretty fired up about the old Grizz. So hopefully we can keep building on that momentum. I think we're off to a great start, both with our team and with the recruiting class. And as I said, momentum will build upon itself, so we need to keep that going.
Final question for you. How important is spring ball going to be this year compared to maybe any other year? And give us kind of the schedule before we talk with you again when spring ball starts.
Well, the first year, anytime you're inserting and installing offense, defense, special team stuff, spring ball is pretty imperative. Not that it isn't every year, and we'll always have urgency anytime we get out on the field, but this year it's a big deal for us. And we're into our winter, you know, as soon as we get to this point in the calendar, we're into our winter conditioning mode, and we're grinding on our guys pretty good. And they, the best thing is they're responding. I think our team's very hungry. I think they want to win. I think they want to do whatever it takes to win championships here. I believe that already early on they trust us, that we know how to get that done. So they've been real receptive. There has been absolutely zero pushback from the guys. They just want more. And to me, that's a good sign for Grizz football down the road.
That will do it for this year's signing day special. Stay tuned throughout all of spring ball here on GoGrizz.com. We will bring you updates of the Grizzly football team.